Just a small town girl living in a lonely world.
What's that?
My mic?
It's episode 2 and you're already making changes?
Listen here, all right? I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm the talent.
Right.
Okay. Well, you know what? You can be jealous all you want because size does matter. All right, let's do this. Hi, I'm Wes.
Hi, I'm Dennis, and welcome to Petrol Station, your one-stop shop for cheap opinions and cheaper conversation. All right, you want to get started?
I do. First topic of discussion here today. Cars that have 500 horsepower or more, are they necessary?
No, absolutely not.
See, yeah, you have an opinion and I have my opinion. Right.
All right, well, let's start with yours.
Okay. My opinion is if you got the money, yeah, why not have a 500 horsepower plus car?
Okay, so counter to that, let's look at the Hellcats. Right? So you get a Charger, you get a Challenger.
The boat on wheels?
Well, absolutely. You know, honestly, I think Dodge just increases the weight on those cars just for traction. But you think about it, you spend, what were they? MSRP 65 to 85, brand new.
Probably more than that, actually, nowadays.
I mean, they don't make them anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The electric kitty is what's coming out next.
The Hell Kitten.
The Hell Kitten.
But yeah, you know, $65 to $85,000 for a 700 horsepower car, and you know, then you can do the red eye package, which I think was $797, and then they started that whole, you know, Dodge aftermarket tuning thing where you're essentially getting tuned by Dodge, and you can get up to 800, and then, you know, I think the Demon was 900 to 1,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
But I mean, look, let's just stick to the Hellcats, right? 707 horsepower. To drive that daily doesn't make any sense. They get like 12 miles to the gallon. That's just going to kill your wallet.
The best.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, going downhill with the wind at your back.
Yeah, you're spending more on gas than you are on oil changes.
Right. But also, where are you going to use it?
I mean,
stoplight to stoplight?
Yeah, I think around here especially, you know, again, for everybody that doesn't know, we live in the Austin area. That's Austin, Texas, not anywhere else. We live in that area, and around here, yeah, there's too much traffic to do anything with more than 500 horsepower. Because I mean, for us, you know, we've had both, right? We've had both we've had the Mustangs, we've had cars with four cylinder.
I had a 700 horsepower Mustang.
You had a 700 horsepower Mustang. We've kind of had them both worlds, right? And then when I'm talking about like cars to drive that are enjoyable, I would say 350 horsepower would probably be my like sweet spot, because that's enough power where I can get a small car with a smaller engine, have a more nimble car around here. But that's not to say that cars like that in Utah, places that don't have as much traffic, big highways, stuff like that, that they can just go rip down, you know, interstate. I think it'd be worth it to have it there. But like here, you know, we feel like it's not necessary here because of what we see every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think even in an area where you could, you know, really open the taps, take advantage of all that horsepower, take advantage of the top speed that comes with. I mean, you may be able to get away with that once or twice, and then eventually you're going to wind up on the wrong road with, you know, a cop and end up going to jail just because you wanted to flex on your
flex on the haters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, like me personally, I love the way that the Challengers and Chargers, the previous Challengers and Chargers look, especially the wide body cars. But I wouldn't buy a Hellcat. Scat Pack, that would be a good car, especially with like a 6-speed transmission. That would be a fun car to drive, and you don't have to worry about maintenance on the blower. You don't have to worry about an extra belt. You don't have to worry about extra equipment being attached to your engine that could possibly fail. I mean, it's a Dodge.
If that's not going to go, it's going to be the computer.
Yeah. Or the transmission. Or the rear end.
Or the panels.
Or you get the Hemi tick, and the only thing that works is the supercharger.
Yeah, can we talk about, real quick, I just want to go over something that you said last episode. How bland the Teslas look, and you're talking about how good the Hellcats look when they all look like the exact same boat driving down the road.
But they have curves. There's actual body lines. You look at a Tesla, it is a anonymous blob going down the road.
The wide body. If you don't get the wide body, you look like every basic Challenger V6 driving down the road. Unless you have a badge that says 392 or a Hell Kitten badge, you look like a basic.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Still better than a Tesla.
You don't like bland looking cars, but you like the Dodge.
Still looks way
It
better
is
than
what it
Tesla.
is. Beg to differ.
I
Anyways,
would take a
can
mini.
we take a poll? I'm going to take a poll on the channel after this episode airs where we're going to see which one is more basic, the Tesla or the Challenger. Yeah. You're going to lose.
Probably. So, okay, let's move away from the Dodge conversation. Let's talk about horsepower horsepower in general. I think anything past 500, maybe 550 is just pointless. I think with 500-ish horsepower in that range, you could still have a great driving car, a fun car to drive, and that can still be used to, go out and have some spirited runs, but you're not making so much horsepower that you're no longer able to easily maneuver the car through a turn. I mean, the problem with having that much horsepower on a basic city street is that even if you do get an opportunity to open it up, you're going to outpower yourself. And in most cases, with most people who can't afford those cars and end up buying them,
throwing them into a tree.
Yeah, they end up, having less driver and more car.
Yeah.
I would say a perfect example of decent horsepower, great driving car, great handling car, Mustang GT350.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. And we go back again, prime example of the Mustang. When you get to that kind of horsepower in a Mustang, one, it isn't the easiest car to drive at that horsepower. Even at the base horsepower, it's not a great car to drive. It's fun, but it's a muscle car. It doesn't handle as good as, say, like a Porsche 911. It doesn't handle as good as an all-wheel drive Subaru WRX STI at that horsepower. Those kind of cars, again, that takes, it's not going to be stock. It's going to take some time to get there. But I feel like it also depends on, when we talk about whether or not it's worth having a 500 horsepower car, is it's based off of the actual car. So like GT350, that's a super, or not super, it's a souped up Mustang that has a lot more suspension in it. It has, different upgrades that make it a lot more drivable.
Yeah, better
car.
Suspension, Magna Ride, bigger.
But it goes back to show, if you have a car that is equipped with 500 horsepower that can handle that kind of horsepower, I'm sure it'd be fun. For me, I don't have that experience. I'm sure I'd be happier than a witch's titty on Christmas if I had a Porsche 911 to be able to drive around in this kind of state and be able to have 500 plus horsepower in an all-wheel drive car, because they're all-wheel drive, right? 911s?
I think most of them are.
Yeah. Anyways, if they're not, I still feel like they have enough quality parts and suspension upgrades and things to make it where you can actually drive that car and enjoy it day to day.
Well, absolutely, because that car is specifically built, tuned, and engineered to be really good.
But Hector's fucking Civic that has 500 horsepower and
a spoon engine.
And a spoon engine, yeah. With what else was the list of parts?
I just went in there, and Hector is gonna be running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines, and on top of that, he just came into Harry's and he ordered 3 T66 turbos with NOS and a Motec system exhaust.
That to me would be undrivable. It'd be fun on the drag strip where you can just go in a straight line. But trying to drive something like that day to day would be a terrible driving experience.
Well, and look, I think here's where the problem really lies, especially my generation that grew up with the original Fast and the Furious. All we ever got taught was more horsepower, more horsepower, more horsepower. But when you got to the point where cars were rolling off the showroom floor with 700 plus horsepower, that's just too.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, when Fast and the Furious came out, a lot of horsepower was 300 plus. That was pushing the limits on some of these engines, back in the 2000s. So, I mean, I think it goes back to show, one, the times we're in, and the amount of horsepower we can shove into some of these engines that we have now, make it a lot more accessible in a lot of different cars, but at the same time, yeah, doesn't make sense in that car. Sure, the Mustang's fun, but again, we hear every single weekend another wreck from another Mustang owner because they don't know how to drive those cars and they have way too much horsepower on a car that's not really should be equipped with that much horsepower.
Agreed. And not to just hate on Mustangs.
No, we owned them, so we can.
Well, true. But I mean, look, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, they're all awesome. They're beautiful cars. But yeah, when you see, the ones ripping down, they have a UPR logo on the back of them and the bumpers ripped off and you can see the full twin turbo setup on the back of it. You just know that car is ending up in a wall at some point in its life.
Or Calvo's Garage, not sponsored. You're welcome for the sponsorship or for the shout out. Hopefully that gets you some kind of business. I don't know. Call us, please. We miss you.
Yes.
We should have phoned a friend when we were talking about this because he has a lot of cars over 500 horsepower. Pretty sure he doesn't own a car that's less than 500 horsepower.
I'm pretty sure he has a lot of cars that are over 1,000.
Well, no, I'm saying like he doesn't own a car under 500. Like even his minivan that he bought with the twins is probably, again, this probably isn't going to go in, but
I think he's got a Maverick.
Oh yeah, he does have a Maverick. We got twin turbos on that bitch.
Probably coming.
Part of that.
Yeah,
I just want to watch.
Yeah, I just want to watch it. Billet block. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Just mind your business if I'm in a corner.
Lights down low.
Lights down low. One, it goes back to the car itself, but two, the driver. It goes back to people that have these cars that shouldn't really have these cars that, are at a point in their life where they can't afford these cars. And they're just buying them because, one, they're pretty accessible, like I said previously with, like, again, going back to the Charger and Challengers. The Hellcat, you can get a used Hellcat for almost probably 40 grand, 50 grand nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Which is pretty obtainable for most people. And so for those kind of people that can obtain those but don't know necessarily how to drive those cars, that's the ones that end up in the wall. And they, spin out at red lights. Man, I saw a Challenger the other day, like, try to do a U-turn and, like, hit the gas too hard and almost went into the ditch.
No, that was a street takeover.
Yeah.
I will say, and
that's the conversation we need to have.
Yeah. Well, that's a different video. Before everybody jumps in the comment section and starts ripping us.
Or do, because I will fight you.
Yeah, he's scrappy and moody. There are exceptions to the rule, though. Like, you look at the Ford GT, 600-ish horsepower, fantastic handling car, built-in electronics to help keep it planted. McLarens. I mean, the biggest thing about the McLarens is 700, 800, 900 horsepower cars, but amazing computer systems that help keep it on the ground, help keep traction, help keep all four tires spinning in the direction that they should. The GTR.
But you're not dailying any of those cars.
No, not at all. GTR maybe, depending on what year.
Have you sat in a GTR?
But here's the deal. All of that, like all of those cars that we just listed, amazing onboard nannies that keep the driver pointing in the direction that they want to go. Dodge Challenger, Dodge Charger, Hellcats, not so much. Maybe they'll cut some fuel and some timing, but they're not going to be able to go directional on power.
No, you really have to know how to drive those cars. And you also have to know how to throw weight. And I don't think a lot of people understand that when it comes to the Challengers and Chargers and how much weight they actually hold. Like, you have to throw the weight around. And people don't understand that when you throw a back end bag, that weight is gonna go with it, and like they just like overcorrect. Yeah, pick you with a bat here, but yeah, like they don't understand that, and they overcorrect, oversteer, and go straight into a wall because they don't know how to drive it. And I think that's what it goes back to. A lot of these cars that we're talking about, even like in the McLaren level, they're great, and they give you a lot of leeway when it comes to drivability.
But they can only compensate for a bad driver so much.
Compensate for so much, and a lot of these people that can afford these cars are not true drivers. And it's unfortunate because you see all the time on Instagram, TikTok, pour one out for the homie in case they go away.
Yep.
That, they throw them into wall. It's not as, you don't hear it as often as like some like Mustangs and Challengers because they're not as common.
Right. There's a lot more on the street. That's why you hear more about them.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it comes back to as well. For daily drivers, McLaren would be so cool. GTR would be amazing to have. But would you be daily driving that car? No, absolutely not. You're not daily driving a Ford GT. Those are cars that you take out on the weekends here and there. You're not putting miles on them. So
cars and coffee.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to
10 events with high-end dinners.
Yeah, if I was to look at a 500 horsepower car that I would want to daily drive, it would have to be a hatchback. It would have to be all-wheel drive. And the only thing I can think of that would be anywhere remotely near that, for what I would want, would be like an Audi RS or what is it? Audi RS7 or RS5, something like that.
Sure.
The higher horsepower, like all-wheel drive sedans. So the BMW M3. The Audi, the Mercedes AMG, the higher, all-wheel drive cars that can handle, again, something that I can obtain would be those kind of cars. And even then I can't obtain them because I'm broke. But I really need those Patreons, guys.
Yeah. I really need those sponsors.
I really need those sponsors trying to trying to make a race car.
Trying to pay bills.
Hyundai Velocity. But yeah, like it would be really cool. I think again, if I could find a car like that does have 500 horsepower that I could daily, it would have to be an all-wheel drive. It'd have to be something that can handle the horsepower without having to have the electronics that all these $800 to $1 million cars have.
Yeah.
That you would, be kind of, the most plug and play where you can just get in and drive it and not have to worry about it.
I like it.